Good evening. Welcome to our Tuesday night workshop. If the both of you could introduce yourselves and then take it away.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Heather Hunter, City Administrator for the City of Lewiston.
Tracy Roy, Finance Director for City of Lewiston. Tonight we're going to be doing general government. It starts on page 38. The overall increase is $89,094 or 16.6%. There are two new programs, and again, these new programs are on page 18, are not in the current budget. The DEI Community Engagement and the DEI Intern, you can find those on page 18, and they were also in that packet that you received for the backup. City Council's on page 38. Overall increase of $1,348 or 4.7%. Personal services remains flat. Contracted services increased $1,348, all in miscellaneous services for the new badges and the new plates for the new members. Mayor is also on page 38. Overall increase of $295 or 2.5%. Personal services are flat. Contracted services increased $295, all for the MMA confirmation, along with some other workshop and meetings. City administration is on page 38. There's an overall decrease of $38,652, or 7.8%. Personal services decreased $58,305. This is due to the marketing and communication director being budgeted in city administration last year. Fiscal year 24, we have moved her to her own division, so you'll see a marketing division in the book. Contracted services increased $19,563. The increase is in telephone of $948 due to the additional cell phone stipend and laptop data charges. DEI services, $19,700. For the telephone language line, dues, training, and brochures. A decrease of $1,195 in repairs and equipment for the cost of the photocopier being moved to the MIS budget. Supplies increased $90 for the increase of $150 in office supplies for the election year for the council's orientation binders, and a slight decrease in printing supplies of $60. Fixed costs remain flat. Don't know if you want to stop and if you guys have any questions at this point.
Councilor Scott.
Thank you. So if we could go back to City Council, I know this is not a lot of money, but I'm just curious. I mean, when we look at the original budget for 2023 on miscellaneous services at $480, and then we're looking at already spent so far this year, $1,052, and we're recommending $1,828. What do we need that money for?
So there's two things. First of all, the $1,052 for the current year includes the meal that we had right before the holidays that was not budgeted.
Okay.
That we wanted to go, and then with the refreshments and so forth, those costs have increased in the current year. So part of that covers that. Part of that covers the new council coming in, their nameplates, orientation, some of the...
Coming fall?
This coming
Or the
election,
next one?
yes,
Okay.
for the next January.
Okay.
So you'll see everything related to this election year, this local election year has increased. So you'll see that when we get to Kathy's budget for city clerk for the inauguration, you'll see that with our elections and so forth. So this is that off year that everything kind of elevates for that.
Okay, all right. And I just would like to recommend that we don't have out-of-budget cost meals, personally. I don't think that we need that. Thank you.
Further question, Councilor McCarthy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, the same line in the mayor's budget, the $4,700. 2 years ago, it was $3,200. Now it's $1,500 higher.
Part of that includes any costs for the training that's done, as well as if there's any bequests or things like that that need to be sent out for family members, immediate family members on behalf of the city wreath goes out, and that comes out of this budget as well.
Okay, thank you.
further questions at this point? Please
So we'll
proceed.
move on to marketing on page 39. Again, this is a new division, so the overall increase is 100% at $126,103. Personal services, of course, increased $93,990 for the marketing communication director's budget. Of course, it was currently in fiscal year '23 in the city administrators. Contracted services increased $31,464. The largest portion of this is in the categories of advertising and marketing at $30,000. Supplies increased $350. Fixed assets increased $299 for the dues of Maine Public Relations Council. City attorney is on page 42. This remains flat. This is needed for outside consultants. We'll move to city clerks and elections on page 43. Overall increase of $79,958 or 20.9%. City clerks had an overall increase of $10,393, 3.1%. Personal services increased $10,043. Contracted services increased $1,300. An increase in miscellaneous services of $2,000 due to the inauguration ceremony that will be happening in fiscal year '24, as Heather had mentioned. Offset by a decrease in the repairs of equipment of $700 for the photocopier being budgeted in the MIS budget this year, or fiscal year '24. Supplies decreased $900 in printing supplies, covered in maintenance contracts. They no longer will need to pay for the toner separately. It's within the maintenance contract. Fixed costs decreased $50. This is due to the dues for removal of the renewal of notary, which was done in fiscal year '23. It only needs to be done every other year, or I believe 5 years. Elections are on page 43. The overall increase was $69,565, or 153.4%. There are 3 elections budgeted in fiscal year '24, where there was only 2 in fiscal year '23. That's why you will see the increase. There will be a November 2023 for city, March 2024 for the presidential preference primary, and June 2024 for the state primary. Personal services increased $53,910. Overtime increased $16,625. Temporary workers increased $37,285. Contracted services increased $15,280. This is due to printing at $7,500 for the municipal ballots that are going to be needed for the election, along with advertising at $1,450 for the 3 elections, vehicle rental at $1,300, and miscellaneous services at $2,450 for the programming of the voting machines. Supplies increased $150. This increase in office supplies is all $150 due to the 3 elections needing more supplies. Fixed cost increased $225, and this is for the rental for Green Ladle for that additional election. And I'll stop here in case you have any questions on elections or city clerk. None? So finance, you'll find on page 43. There was an overall increase of $18,352, or 2%. Finance and administration had an overall increase of $11,707, or 7.8%. Personal services increased $11,223, including COLAs for 1.5 position, and the finance committee stipend with the 5 committee members. Contracted services increased $454. An increase in printing of $454, cost to the budget, the LCIP and the ACFR having a slight increase due to the cost of supplies that the printer that we use is going to see over the next year. Supplies remain flat. Fixed cost increased $30. This is all in dues for the Maine Tax Collectors and Treasurers Association due to the certificate. Purchasing is on page 44. The overall increase of $6,732, or 6.6%. Personal services increased of $6,932, including the COLAs for 1.5 positions. Contracted services decreased $200, all within the service training. This will not be needed in fiscal year 2024. Supplies remain flat, and fixed costs remain flat. Accounting and auditing is on page 44 and 45. There's an overall decrease of $2,644, or 1%. Personal services decreased $1,851. This is attributed to turnover for 2 employees. We have 6 employees within that department, and we have a credit portion of that 1 individual for the grant accountant from CDBG. Contracted services decreased $658. Decrease in printing services of $816, with a slight increase in postage of $125 for mail-in 1099s, and mileage and travel of $33. Supplies decreased $135. This is due to less copies being done in the central service printer, larger printers. Treasury and tax collectors is on page 45. There's an overall increase of $4,007, or 1%. Personal services increased $3,027 attributed to COLAs. We have 9.4 positions. That .4 is our shared individual with the assessing department who works Monday and Friday down the tax office. Contracted services increased $840. Printing services increased $1,914 for the certified mail-in envelopes, and an offset of a decrease in postage of $344. Through the increase in postage for the certifieds, there's a removal of the send suite that we had budgeted for fiscal year 2023, which was $1,800. We removed that off of the budget for the 24 because we cannot use that because the certified that was coming back through an email does not have the signature. So we can't use that for tax lien purposes, foreclosures. So we had to go back to not budgeting for that and going back to budgeting for the actual envelopes to start mailing them out again and getting that green card back. Miscellaneous services of $220. Lien recording and discharges increase of $475 due to the decrease of liens filed. Actually, it's a decrease in liens filed for fiscal year 2022 by 342 less liens that we filed in 2022 from the 2021 numbers. Supplies increased $140, an increase in printing supplies of $200 for copies from the Central Services photocopier, with a slight decrease of office supplies of $60. Fixed costs remain flat. Central Services is on page 45. There's an overall decrease of $1,450, or 72.5%. Contracted services decreased $1,500. The decrease in postage of $1,000 due to the budget to actual. Repairs to equipment, $500, is the usage credit that we project for getting copies that individual departments use that large copier for. Supplies increased at $50 for office supplies due to the paper cost. And I will stop there for any questions on finance and administration. None? So MIS is on page 46. Overall increase of $238,442, or 37.8%. Personal services increased $15,610 due to COLAs and steps. Increase of $222. Contracted services increased $222,082. Increase in maintenance and licenses, as we mentioned before. All of everybody's photocopiers, maintenance contracts are now within the MIS, so you're going to see that increase. We had an increase of $221,230. The largest increase in this line item is the Munis agreement. It's increased in $147,372. This is due to Munis will be hosting our servers starting August 12th, 2023. Along with the new version of Munis, which is called the Hub. They will no longer do customer service on the older versions, so we are moving forward to their newer version, which is called the Hub. The cameras maintenance contract with the increase of $110,000 due to all the new cameras. Photocopier maintenance of $8,000. And a reminder that the school reimburses the city for their portion, which is $93,679. So some of that munis that we saw, that increase in, is reimbursed from the school for their portion. Telephones, $852 due to the data lines. Supply increase of $750. This is all for the ID cards. And that is MIS. Do we have any questions for MIS?
Yes, I do. So do we, and Director Starr is here as well, okay. Director Starr, do you mind coming to the podium? Or, sorry, yeah, that one right there, yeah. So we host our own Exchange servers, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Have we done an analysis of how much that would cost versus, going to a hosted solution? For instance, I realize it's a different platform, but, take for instance Gmail.
We absolutely have. We look at it every year, and at this point, if we purchased Office software to replace what we have currently, it would cost us approximately $247,000. That's the price per year for the hosted service. So we get about 7 years of life out of an installed product, so it's, much more economical to install our own and not have the hosted service.
Right, okay. And I see, we're probably, are we running the latest version of Exchange?
We are not. We're running Exchange 2016.
Okay, and I assume there's still security patches for that?
It's still supported, yeah, it's still under
Okay.
support, yep, for 3-4 more years, so, yeah. We'll be looking at an upgrade probably next year.
And at that point, will we, I guess it'll, we'll have to see where the numbers fall.
Absolutely,
But it could
we
be
get a quote.
hosted at that point.
Yeah, we get a quote for both options.
Okay.
Yep.
And, sorry, one last technical question. How old are the servers that currently run Exchange?
The servers that currently run Exchange are on a 6-year replacement schedule. We run a VMware virtual environment, so we run a stack of host servers, and within those host servers, we run all these virtual servers. So those get replaced. Every year, we replace one of the 6 servers as an LCIP item for a 6-year replacement schedule.
Okay, thank you. Further questions from the council? Thank you, Director Starr.
So we'll move on to assessing, which is on page 47. You'll see an overall increase of $10,100 or 3.1%. Personal services increased $8,315. Contracted services increased $1,620. Increases due to the postage of $1,740 for the mail-in of tax stabilization mail-in. Increase in printing services of $200 for those forms for the tax stabilization. Increase in training of $180 for the training for 4 employees for education and board requirements. Offset by a decrease in advertising of $250 and the registry services of $250 for the decrease in deeds for the county registry. Supplies increased $165, all in department apparel, and the fixed costs remain flat. I'll stop here in case you have any questions for Assessor. None? Human Resources is on page 48. You'll see an overall increase of $6,761 or 3.1%. Again, there is a new program and service request on page 18. It is not included in the budget for a human resource specialist of $86,645. So personal services increased $8,796 for COLAs and steps. There's 3 employees, and there is also a credit for the safety from the school for the safety coordinator that's within this budget for human resources. Contracted services decreased $2,210. We had an increase in the medical services, $6,345. This is due to the recent turnover and number of pre-employment screenings that are needed. A decrease in vehicle rental of $2,160 for the safety coordinator's truck due to the reimbursement from the school is going up a little bit higher. a decrease in the labor relations of $6,000, a decrease in miscellaneous services of $438 for the photocopy maintenance that was moved to the MIS budget, supplies increase of $175 for public safety supplies for the safety officers' boot and rain gear. Fixed costs remain flat. Are there any questions on human resources? So next, we're going to go over planning and code. That will be found on page 59. You'll see an overall decrease of 1,889 or 0.3%. This department also has a new program and service request on page 18 for body cameras for the code officers at $27,473. Again, this is not in the budget. The detail is on page 18. Personal services decreased $6,268 due to the CDBG continuing to fund 25% of the administration assistant position and the code inspector's position, and 15% is funded through TIF for the director of planning. There are 10 positions within this department. Contracted services increased $6,850. Increase in printing services of $50. Increase in advertisement for $600 for the legal notices in the newspaper. Mileage and travel of $6,000 for mileage for staff or board members for training. Increase in miscellaneous services of $200 for the water testing. Supplies decreased $2,254. For printing supplies, $2,150 for the toner being included within the maintenance contract, as you saw in the clerks. Decrease in the department apparel of $305, and a slight increase to offset from office supplies of $100 and small tools of $101. Fixed costs decreased $217 for the dues for American Planning Associations for only one membership this year, or fiscal year '24, as opposed to the two that are in this current year's budget of fiscal year '23. Do you have any questions on planning and code?
Where are we with, we were talking about it a little bit this morning, where are we with online permitting or moving some of the administrative tasks online?
They are in the process of upgrading the InterGov software, and part of that process does include hosting an online version for licensing and permits.
And is that something that we can do without adding to the budget, or is that already included here and we just need to flip it on, or?
We need to go through the conversion process and the training, and then it's already included in the budget.
Okay,
So it's just people time to get it to fruition.
thank you. Councilor Scott.
Thank you. The positions that are partially funded by the CDBG, is that, at any point, are those going to have to go into the regular budget, or is that a continuation that we foresee to keep going?
At this point, there's no word yet that those would not. We did have a caseworker that was funded by CDBG for a number of years, and then this current year was the first year that it was pulled back into general fund.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Councilor Jelinas.
Thank you. This is kind of a general question, but sort of reviewing these line items made me think of it. Not including our law enforcement or our firefighters, are there policies for the city, when we think about overtime lines, are there like policies that say, you have to have pre-approval? I mean, how a lot of businesses have had to really sort of cut back on how much overtime is allowed, right?
Correct.
And I just wondered if you could speak to that.
I believe every department head has informed their employees that they must get approval before, except for like when on call for like the water district,
Probably,
or
yeah,
the
the
water
insurance,
breaks
yeah.
and stuff like that. There has to be somebody on call. But all the other departments, like my department, they know that they have to get pre-approval for overtime.
Right, I meant to
Before.
include Public Works in that, when I mentioned that, but yeah, thank you for that, I appreciate that. It's little money, but it kind of adds up, right?
And this department does respond to emergencies as well.
Okay.
From a food safety, if there's a carnival or anybody that's serving food at an event over the weekend, they're liable to inspect. If there's a restaurant fire, over the weekend or at night, they respond to those as well.
How many health inspectors do we have for restaurants? Or how many people can do that work?
Dave, are you back there? I think it's only one, but. Correct. Okay, just one.
So, Mr. LaChance?
Correct.
Yes, okay, all right. Question answered. Thank you, Director.
Not a good day.
Further questions from the council? I guess.
So-
Anything else?
So, Mr. Mayor, we've kind of gone through all of the detail departments. On Thursday, we will talk about the miscellaneous budget and what falls under that. One of the things that does fall under the miscellaneous budget is nonprofit monetary and in-kind request. So the sheets that I put at your place setting, those will be for Thursday night. That's the summary sheet. We will have, if there are questions, we will have the detail file available so we can do a deeper dive. We'll also be reviewing the miscellaneous revenues. We haven't talked about the revenues for general fund yet, so we'll review those, as well as that will be your first round of adjustments, my proposed adjustments to you, to review and go through as well. And at that point, it'd be great to get some kind of direction on, after you see where we're at with the adjustments and everything, some direction of where you want the budget to go.
Down.
We're working on it.
Thank you, Councilor LaChapelle. Anything further? Councilor LaChapelle?
No.
Oh, okay, excellent. Yes, my pleasure. Excellent, thank you, Administrator Hunter, Director Roy. We will be ready for Thursday.
Okay.
And for the viewing public, we will be back on at 7. Thank you. Hello, good evening.
Nope, not on yet.
We're starting our city council meeting. Thank you all for being here. We're going to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Meghan Graff. Thank you, Megan. And Madam Clerk, I understand that we are going to have a presentation from the Lewiston Youth Advisory Council.
Yes, sir.
And we have Ava Golder here. Please take it away.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name is Ava Golder with the Lewiston Youth Advisory Council. I am the vice chair. We are planning our Let Diversity Shine event, and it's coming along great. Faisal and Alyssa recently did a WIGY Breakfast Club radio interview about it. The date has been set for May 11th from 6 to 8 at the new LA Arts location at 168 Lisbon Street. We will have 6 tables representing different origins, ethnicities, and cultures by people who call Lewiston home. We will soon be ordering our 5-foot wide red carpet for those individuals who can also sing, read, dance, and show cultural attire or recite a poem. We are also working on lining up cultural music, and LYAC will host a table with the 5 largest waves of immigration in Lewiston: Irish, French, Greek, Lithuanian, and Somali. We will also have post-it note areas where people can post what they knew about diversity upon arrival and what they learned after they leave. We will have an international basket as a drawing, as well as donated gift cards to some of our diverse Lewiston restaurants. Also, Joan Macri, a former LHS teacher and president of the Riverside Cemetery in Lewiston, has reached out to LYAC. She would like our help in promoting the walkability of the area and all its green space, as well as the historical nature of the site. There are mayors, senators, 1,200 veterans, including Civil War veterans, buried there, and it's a great place for historical buffs to check out. We will first help her with a to-be-announced cleanup day in May. We will also be doing social media pictures highlighting their interesting historical records, and we will be planning a Walk for Jeannie with our formal LYAC members in June in respect to LYAC's official grandmother, Jeannie Raymond, who passed away last month. The walk will focus on her and hopefully also bring attention to the area's walkability. Also, LYAC is participating with the Lewiston Public Library and the LA Read. Cadence, Sarah, and I have already done promo videos on social media about it, and more of us will be filming one. The book is Maxie's Secret by Lynn Plord, and the library is planning activities surrounding the community read. Also, LYAC member Annie Zhao would like LYAC to recognize Mental Health Awareness Month in May, since that has been our focus during this group's tenure. She will also like LYAC to designate a place in Lewiston to plant flowers in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month. She suggests marigolds, which is the symbol of brevity of life. She also feels marigolds would be fitting due to the significant losses that have been experienced in our schools and community, to include Jeannie, and the former LYAC member Omar Osman. Also, on Monday this week, Libby Wright, the manager of the Youth Mental Health Programs from Maine, Office of the National Alliance on Mental Health, reached out to Dottie about the mental health work that LYAC has done since last fall. She offered her services for any future work on this topic, as they have several youth mental health programs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ava. I'm looking forward to those events. Thank you. And thank you. I see several members of the Youth Advisory Council here. Thank you so much for being here. We are now going to have a couple of presentations, and I'll be moving to the front here. Can I have Chantel join me up here, please? And are there any other childcare educators here this evening? Okay. Yes, thank you, thank you. Yes, members of the council, thank you. So this is the week of the young child, and we are going to be recognizing the week of the young child and commending the contributions of early childhood educators. Whereas, this is a proclamation. Whereas the Week of the Young Child is an annual celebration sponsored by the National Association for the Education of Young Children, the world's largest early childhood education association. And whereas established in 1971, the purpose of the Week of the Young Child is to focus public attention on the needs of young children and their families, and to recognize the early childhood programs and services that effectively meet those needs. And whereas the first years of a child's life and the period of the most rapid brain development and children's cognitive, physical, social and emotional, and language and literacy development need a foundation of positive interactions with adults, peers, and their environment. And whereas high-quality early care and education can help overturn the effects of poverty, detect and remediate delays, identify and help prevent child neglect, and lead to positive outcomes for individual children. And whereas quality early childhood education also helps prepare young lives for their educational journey and beyond. And whereas childhood educators are indeed a vital workforce supporting others in the workforce, providing safety, a nurturing presence, and skill building for our children, and their presence is a tremendous asset within our community. Now, therefore, I, Carl L. Shaleen, as the Mayor of the City of Lewiston, do hereby recognize April 2 through 8 as the Week of the Young Child and commend the dedicated work of early childhood educators. Thank you for... We're going to get a picture, Chantal. And thank you very much for bringing this to my attention. And we appreciate the business that you run here.
3, 2, 1. One more. 3, 2.
If I can have Meghan Graff join me up here, please. And I think we have some of your teammates here. Could the teammates raise your hands? Higher? Yeah, okay. And then we have the coach here as well, Coach Montgomery. Any other coaches? Okay, no worries. Hello, everyone. This evening, I have the great honor of celebrating an outstanding member of our Lewiston community. Meghan Graff is the captain of the Bates College women's basketball team and led the team last year as captain to their overall win as NESCAC champions. This year, she beat the Bates College all-time scoring record with 1,645 points, surpassing the previous record set 23 years ago. Her other accomplishments also highlight her all-around ability to be a team player. In the 2022 to 2023 season, she was named the Maine Player of the Year and named to the All-NESCAC First Team, 5th Team All-American, Division III All-American Honorable Mention, and All-Region First Team. Last season, she was also named the Bates Player of the Year, among many other accomplishments. In addition to her incredible athletic performance, Graff was also named to the Dean's List this last year. You know, I attended nearly every Bates home game this past season, and it didn't take long to recognize that Meghan possesses an extraordinary mindset that she brings to the court. Her self-confidence is apparent, and she never hesitates. You don't let a missed shot bother you. You shake it off, and you take the next shot like you mean it. This is what sets you apart. Thank you. Meghan, we still have a little bit more here. Thank you. Please hold your applause. Meghan grew up in South Portland, and I'm glad that she decided to come to Bates for an education and to play. Congratulations on your success with the Bates basketball team, and we wish you the very best this next year. And so today, it is my distinct honor to be proclaiming the Meghan Graff Day in the city of Lewiston. Whereas, it's right here. Okay, here we go. Whereas when an individual surpasses a 23-year-old athletic record, that's something to celebrate. And whereas Meghan Graff, captain of the Bates College women's basketball team, has beat the Bates College all-time scoring record with 1,645 points, surpassing the previous record set 23 years ago. And whereas she is focused, driven, and takes everything in stride, and her consistent performance demonstrates her commitment. And whereas, as an exemplary team leader with a phenomenal team player attitude, it is not surprising that she has been named the Maine Player of the Year and Bates Player of the Year, as well as attained many other accolades and distinctions. And whereas Meghan also led her team to the overall win as New England Small College Athletic Conference champion last year. And whereas Meghan is not only athletically skilled, but she also made the Dean's List in 2022. And whereas Meghan is clearly a role model, not only for the Bates College community, but for the city of Lewiston as a whole. Now, therefore, I, Carl L. Schelin, as mayor of the city of Lewiston, do hereby proclaim April 4, 2023 as Meghan Graff Day within the city of Lewiston and applaud her record-breaking achievement, stellar leadership, and dedicated efforts both on and off the court. A round of applause for Meghan. Thank you for being Bates Bobcat with unlimited fight.
Ready? 3, 2, 1. One more. 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, I believe we're ready to begin.
The next item, we'll note that all roll call votes for this meeting will begin with the Councilor of Ward 3.
And I understand, thank you, Madam Clerk. The minutes were just sent to us, and so I recommend to the council that we approve the minutes at the next meeting.
Sure.
We are now up to public comment. Any member of the public may make comments regarding issues pertaining to Lewiston City Government. This period is reserved for non-agenda items. Public comment is also allowed during individual agenda items. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. Please state your name for the record, and please indicate if you are a Lewiston resident. Because this is the business meeting of the City Council, all questions should be directed to the mayor, who will ask staff to follow up at a future time. It is illegal for the City Council to allow comments related to personnel matters. All personnel complaints should be made directly to the City Administration Office. Do we have any public comment? Madam Clerk, agenda item number 1.
Sure.
The consent agenda.
Sure, yes, absolutely. We have 2 items on the consent agenda this evening, Mr. Mayor. Item number 1, resolve appointing David Hediger as Lewiston's local health officer. And number 2, order authorizing execution of municipal quitclaim deeds for real estate located at 80 Levitt Avenue, 5 Suncrest Avenue, 23 Crowley Road, and 2 Tucker Street.
May I have a motion,
So
please?
moved.
Councilor LaChapelle, seconded by Councilor Pease. Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Councilor from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
Ward 2?
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Agenda item number 3.
Item number 3, budget public hearing for fiscal year 2024 budget. Requested action to conduct the first budget public hearing to receive citizen input and communication regarding the proposed fiscal year 2024 municipal budget.
This public hearing is now open. If anyone wishes to speak, I invite you to step up to the podium. And we are now closing the public hearing for the budget. Madam Clerk, agenda item number 4.
Item number 4, public hearing on a new application for a liquor license for Governor's Restaurant, 1186 Lisbon Street. Requested action to authorize the city clerk's office to approve a new application for a liquor license for Governor's Restaurant, 1185 Lisbon Street.
So
May I have
moved.
Person.
Councilor Pease, seconded by Councilor Clement. Discussion? Public comment?
Hi, good evening. I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Jason Clay. I'm a resident of Brewer. I'm currently the Director of Operations for Governor's Restaurant, where I've worked for 17 years. On May 22nd, I will be purchasing the Governor's Restaurant company from the Wadley family. I'm very excited to carry on this iconic main brand, plan to operate the restaurants in the same manner it has been done for almost 64 years in the state. I really look forward to being a part of the Lewiston community, operating in a safe, responsible manner, and I'm more than willing to answer any questions if you have any. But thanks for having me.
Councillor Jelinas?
Thank you. Just want to say to you, Mr. Clay, welcome to the community, and thank you for taking on, this establishment, and glad that you're doing that.
Wide consensus, so thank you. And during a recent snowstorm, it was one of the few places that were open for breakfast, and I went absolutely delicious. Thank you. Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Counsel from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
Ward 2?
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Agenda item number 5.
Item number 5, public hearing on a renewal application for a special amusement permit for live entertainment for the Fraternal Order of Eagles, number 618, located at 1328 Sabata Street. Requested action to grant a special amusement permit for live entertainment for the Fraternal Order of Eagles, number 618, located at 1327 Sabata Street.
May I have a
So
motion,
moved.
please? Councillor Pease, followed by Councillor McCarthy. Discussion? Public comment? Back to the council. Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Counsel from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
Ward 2?
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Agenda item number 6.
Item number 3, public hearing and first, I'm sorry. 6. Item number 6, sorry about that. I apologize.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Item number 6, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Public hearing and first passage for an amendment to the Appendix A of the Code of Ordinances, Zoning and Land Use Code, Article 3, official map. There are 3 items for requested action. The first item, that the proposed amendment to Appendix A of the Code of Ordinances, Zoning and Land Use Code, Article 3, official map as shown on proposed zoning Section 1 map, receive first passage by a roll call vote, and that the public hearing on said ordinance amendments be continued to the next regularly scheduled city council meeting.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Councillor Pease, followed by Councillor McCarthy. Director Hediger, do you want to kick us off, please?
So this is part 3 of our discussions, right? We've done Lisbon Street, excuse me, we've done Sabata Street. We are now on to Main Street. You'll recall we had the joint workshop with the planning board to try to build some consensus as to where these lines are going to be drawn. 3 segments to Main Street, so this is the first one here, Section 1. Again, the left side is what exists today, the right side is what's being proposed. I guess I'll work my way up going north up Main Street. So where the cursor is down here, that's Sabatis and Main Street. And we're working our way up to where Walgreens is and the old Dunkin' Donuts. That whole section there used to be community business. You'll see on the right side, we've decided to zone that to Centreville, which is basically the downtown zoning district that goes down Lisbon Street as well, to try to carry that theme of greater density, both from a space and bulk standard for dwelling units, but also setbacks, basically eliminating them so you have that more urban feel. That rezoning would go up basically to where the new Dunkin' Donuts is. So where my cursor is, that's the new Dunkin' Donuts that was built on Main Street. So basically the CV line would go as far as that. That's around 420 Main Street, 421, that part of the world there. There are a couple contract zones already in that area as well where St. Joseph's, what is it now? Not the church, but the school that was contract rezoned there to make it into apartments. And then Dirigo Credit Union underneath was rezoned for setbacks as well. So the proposed rezoning you have before you, those contract zones will remain in place, but this is actually supports those contract zonings that previous councils did to encourage development there. Office residential, once we get up to Mountain Avenue, maybe zoom in on this a little bit. So Mountain Avenue, basically to Russell Street to the Veterans Bridge. The left side of this right now is zoned in Neighborhood Conservation B. The right side, Neighborhood Conservation A. So B is a multifamily zoning district. A is a single-family zoning district. The thought was to extend that office residential, as seen on the right side, to basically come up with this corridor along Main Street up to the Veterans Bridge. There was discussion at the board, particularly on the Ware Street neighborhood. We did have a neighbor there that expressed some concerns while they were supportive of rezoning the mobile home park, which is what I'm circling there on the corner of Main and Russell. There was some concern about rezoning these two parcels going up Ware Street, whether or not that was appropriate. You'll see in your application or in your memo that the vote on that one was 6-1. One of the planning board members did express concerns with respect to rezoning these two properties that I'm highlighting there. That's it for section 1.
Discussion from the council? Councilor Jelinas?
Thank you. I'm just trying to find it. I thought I had read that the planning board member that voted in opposition, it was about the Ware Street properties, but you're saying that this is the property on Russell and where there's some mobile homes, or,
No.
Nope.
So it includes 6 and 10 Ware.
Yep.
6 and 10 Ware Street, right?
Yep, sorry, let me zoom. So, wasn't that moving over? There we go. 6 and 10 is these two properties right here that the cursor's on. 6 Ware Street, 10 Ware Street. The mobile home park is on the corner there. My point was that there was support by everybody, including the one Ware Street resident that was there, to rezone this property, but did not want to see these two properties zoned 6 and 10. They just felt that it was encroaching too much into a single-family neighborhood.
Right.
Councilor Jelinas, are you?
No, thank you. That was my question. Yeah.
Councilor Scott?
I can understand their concerns, but this has been a single-family neighborhood for a very long time. I don't see that changing. Those houses are maintained. They're beautiful houses. Even the two that are on the Main Street side, before those two behind, are very well-maintained pieces of property that are single-family homes, and I don't foresee that changing in any way. I think the bigger piece is to make sure that the trailer park area has the opportunity to do some possible changes there, because I see that as being more potential than those other two areas. So I'm in full agreement with this.
Councilor McCarthy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, to add on to that, one of the things that we've tried to do with these ordinances is try to straighten out the lines, property lines along the corridors as far as what falls into what thing, and this just keeps that line going straight across, so it makes sense to do what is being proposed here. Thank you.
We're now heading to public comment for this item. Back to the council. Anything further on this, Director Hediger?
Excuse me, no.
Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Council from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
Ward 2?
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0. The second item for requested action under item number 6 is number 2, that the proposed amendment to Appendix A of the Code of Ordinances, Zoning and Land Use Code, Article 3, official map as shown on proposed zoning map, Section 2, map, receive first passage by a roll call vote, and that the public hearing on said ordinance amendments be continued to the next regularly scheduled city council meeting.
So moved. Councilor Pease, followed by Councilor Clement. Director Hediger.
Great. Left side is existing, right side's proposed. Put things in perspective, where the cursor is, this is the other Dunkin' Donuts on the corner of Main and Strawberry. So the land on the left side of Main Street going out of town is currently zoned office residential. There was discussion at that joint workshop about expanding the community business district, which is currently south of supportive of it, so we included that in this discussion as well.
Thank you, Director. Questions, comments from the council? We're heading to public hearing for this item. And now we're back. Madam Clerk, please, or anything further, Director?
Nope.
Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Counsel from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
Ward 2?
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0. Then the third item for requested action, that the proposed amendment to Appendix A of the Code of Ordinances, Zoning and Land Use Code, Article 3, official map as shown on proposed zoning Section 3 map, receive first passage by a roll call vote, and that the public hearing on said ordinance amendments be continued to the next regular scheduled city council meeting.
May I have
So
a
moved.
motion, please? Councilor
Second.
McCarthy, seconded by Councilor Harriman. Director Hediger.
This one, Deer Road, Larrabee Road, the big CMP substation is what I'm highlighting over here right now. Used car dealership on the corner there. This is all office residential right now going out of town. So office residential is basically residential and limited professional type uses. The proposal is to go to highway business. So highway business is one of our, more open commercial zoning districts, allows retail, it allows multifamily as a result of a recent amendment that you folks approved in the last several months. The discussion at that point was, can we try to open up more opportunities on this outer section of Main Street? I will note we did have a letter from a neighbor on Taylor Hill Road. He was unable to meet the planning board meeting, and I think he's going to try to come to the next council meeting. He's out of town right now. But he did express concerns with respect to rezoning this area out here to a more commercial zoning district, and thought it was more appropriate to keep it this transitional type zone that exists today in office residential. That said, the planning board did vote unanimously to amend it to highway business.
Anything further, Director?
Not this time.
Councilor Scott.
Thank you. So, first off, the Taylor Hill Road, that piece in the front, is that not on the corner, it's Pelletier's Karate, there's already a business sitting there, right?
Correct.
Right, okay. And just to reassure those in my ward, particularly on the McCarthy Avenue in that whole neighborhood, that is not, it's the other side of the road that is, nothing's being changed there from Neighborhood Conservation A. It is staying at that neighborhood zone.
That's correct. So
Yeah.
the bottom of that map where you see that bluish color, everything on the left side of, basically from Stetson Road all the way to Deer Road is going to remain neighborhood conservation, which is a single-family district.
Right, thank you.
Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What are some of the things that can go into a highway business that would be out of character in that area? That would upset or cause grief to the surrounding neighbors?
Well, I think part of it would depend upon the size and scale of the use, because you could put a highway business allows light industrial, highway business allows warehousing. You put a 100,000 square foot warehouse out there that operates 24/7, that might raise concerns. Is that going to happen out there, given some of the lot sizes and the terrain? It's similar to Councilor Scott's comment on Main Street and Ware. The likelihood of that might not be that strong. But it allows a smaller operator to potentially have a warehouse there, maybe a 5,000 square foot. They're, independent contractor, something who wants that type of space out there. So that could be something that could occur out there. Convenience stores, gas stations. It's a district that allows retail uses. Picture your busier sections of Sabata Street, Lisbon Street. The types of uses that you see there would occur here. Versus office residential is really, again, professional offices, specifically does not allow retail, specifically does not allow restaurants, but does allow a variety of multifamily uses.
Is there anything there now that's non-conforming to the office residential, that would be conforming with the highway business?
What, yeah, thank you. Where the cursor is right here, there's a contract zone. I don't know the details of that contract zone, other than it was done for Levante's Landscaping.
Yeah.
So that would likely be, the contract zone, similar to what we talked about in the first section of Main Street, would remain in place, but that likely would be a permitted use in the highway business district to allow contractors with limited outside storage.
Now, the CMP substation that sits off of, hidden out behind there, what is that area zoned?
So the existing substation at the end of Larrabee Road is zoned to MDR, and then the proposed one, the inverter station, is this hatched area up here that was contract zoned to MDR.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Bees.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You mentioned that there, contractors could set up a business there and that. Is there any, you said something about limited amount of equipment and whatnot exposed, or is there any regulations there?
I can grab my zoning ordinance. I've left it out
I'm sorry,
back.
limited what? I'm sorry, Councilor Bees?
Well, if they can have all kinds of machinery just
Oh,
down
I see.
all over the place. And
Yeah, I'd have to look, and I certainly can for you folks, with respect to the highway business. The easy answer to that is if there's a residential use next door and you're going to put a commercial use in, you have to provide some type of buffer, staggered row of plantings, fencing, something to that effect to lessen the impact. I can check, but I think in the highway business, there's limited, I should check, but there's also provisions in our ordinance that talk about can't be visible from a public street. I'm not sure that applies in the highway business or not, but there are specific districts that talk about if you're going to have storage of outdoor equipment and whatnot, it can't be visible from the street. So you wouldn't necessarily just be buffering it from your neighbors, but you may be buffering it from the street as well with that fence or plantings.
okay, if you could check on that, I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
Further comments from the council? I believe the binder's coming to you.
Wow, you can tip her next time.
While you check on that, we're heading to public comment for this item.
Hello, my name is Joshua Petrowitz. I live at 145 Summer Street, Apartment 1 in Lewiston. I was here a few weeks back in regards to the Martell School and affordable senior housing. I had heard that this was something that would help with multifamily units. I was just curious what the council could do in regards to that issue. I heard the wait list is about 1,600 folks, so if we're doing some rezoning, I was just curious if that would be applicable to this.
What would be applicable?
Would this zoning qualify for multifamily units such as like 30 unit or smaller? I don't know what the size restriction is, and just want clarification.
Director Hediger?
Sure. So recognizing we're not in the Summer Street neighborhood, but the zoning in this area is currently office residential, which allows multifamilies at a density of 1 unit per 3,000 square feet. If we zone it to highway business, we also allow multifamily in that zoning district at the same ratio of 1 unit to 3,000 square feet. So in that sense, nothing is changing. We're going to continue to allow multifamily in that development. What does change is we don't allow single family in the highway business. So I think that Councilor McCarthy's question about what may become conforming or non-conforming, any single family homes in that district would potentially become non-conforming. Not a big deal the way our ordinance is written, in the sense that if your home was destroyed by fire, you can replace a single-family home. You can replace 1 and 2 families that are non-conforming as a matter of right, regardless if they're non-conforming. Things get a little more complicated for other types of uses that are non-conforming.
Would you have a estimation in regards to the number of families this could affect over 5 to 10 years?
I don't at this time. I haven't looked at the lot sizes out there to determine what the potential number of units could be in that area. It's something we could provide the council if they were interested.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Further public comment? Back to the council?
If I can,
Or
Mr. Mayor, to Councilor P's question about,
Sorry, one second,
Sure.
Director. Sorry, did you? Yeah, exactly. We're heading straight to that.
Yeah, so light industrial use is the example I was giving. If you were to do a light industrial use out there, there is a requirement that it must be fully enclosed with no exterior storage. If you have a building and construction contractor, that one talks about no exterior storage can be visible from the street. So that would be a situation where you might not just be buffering side yards, but you're also providing some type of buffer from the front as well. So it depends on certain uses, what the level of buffering is going to be.
I just want people to understand,
Yeah, please use the mic.
I just want people to understand we're trying to protect them as well on any scenario that might come along when we do these rezonings. Thank you.
Yep. And certainly with any of these changes of uses, because there's a fair amount of vacant land out there, it's going to require development review either from the staff review committee or the planning board.
Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So what happens to someone that owns a piece of land out there that wants to build a single-family home?
They will not be able to do it.
They better hurry.
To the owners of single-family homes out there, are there any negative impacts to being non-conforming if we pass this?
From a property owner's perspective, probably not. You can continue to, a non-conforming use, as long as the use isn't intensified, can expand. So if you have a single-family home, you want to put on a garage, you want to put an addition on, you want to do an accessory dwelling unit that we just passed, you can still do those things. It's much different the other way. If it was a commercial use that was non-conforming, you cannot intensify a non-conforming non-residential use. So if there was a restaurant out there and we were saying no more restaurants and they wanted to add, 30 seats to it, you can't do that. So it's the ordinance is drafted to give a lot more latitude to single families and two-family dwellings, so they don't necessarily get penalized from being non-conforming. We have hundreds of non-conforming uses throughout the community, just given the evolution of zoning since 1940s.
Okay. Yeah, that's good for now, thanks.
Councilor Pease.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, so the person that has that piece of land out there and wants to build a single-family home, he cannot do it, correct?
Correct.
Can he go for a Board of Appeals and have it get a variance?
He cannot. The ordinance does not allow use variances.
Really? Mhm. I hope they were aware of that.
Well, I mean, as you can see, just to whether people pay attention or not, the notices that went out to all of these property owners. So we specifically identify all the properties that are subject to the rezoning. So they and the abutters of this zone receive a notice. That's that and a legal ad as well. So.
And nobody came, sorry.
We had one comment for section 2 and one comment for section 3.
You mean at the planning board or an email?
At the provided to the planning board. We had one member attend the planning board and another person provided written comments.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Pease. Councilor Scott, did you have something?
So, I do, I'm sorry. So, I know that the person that's on Taylor Hill Road sits a little bit further back than the actual on a main street. Am I correct? I believe, I know who it is.
Yeah, I believe
Yeah.
it. If it's not the property my cursor's on, it's the next one. It's one of these two lots.
That's what I thought, okay. And I guess my only concern is, there are businesses out there, and there are some former residential houses that were turned into businesses out there when you go past the Stetson Road on that side of the Main Street, Stetson Road, across from McCarthy and Nimitz in that area. But there are, after Deer Road, several houses there in a row, single-family homes, and several on the other side as well, going up to Taylor Hill Road. And I just want to make sure that if there's any, I don't know about any big pieces of property out there, though, that's in that particular residential area that would be affected if they couldn't build a house there, because I believe that's, I don't know. I'm trying to think of the area. I just want to make sure this particular area, we're not making a change that's going to affect those neighbors on those streets. And I understand where our conversation was, and I see the planning board all voted unanimously for it, so, and we just had the one member speak out, and they were on the Taylor Hill Road. I'm just thinking about all of this, that's all.
Councilor LaChapelle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. During our conversation, we purposely left the NCA alone at the bottom.
Right.
Because that is a very populated neighborhood, and we wanted to keep that character of the neighborhood. We all talked about Main Street and utilizing our corridors for possible businesses. It would be potential in the future of Main Street even widening, what's going to happen with single-family homes, keep our corridors as business-friendly as possible. Up in that area, there is little to none residential homes that are there. Well, past that NCA, they're spotted, not like that NCA area.
Right.
So everybody was in agreement just to leave that NCA alone and focus on the other area. So I feel confident and safe on changing that zoning past that NZA zone. Thank you.
Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you. Any guesses on how many buildable lots are out there? Just,
Not off the top of my head. I can certainly, pulling up the GIS quick and show you folks, just. So it's not gonna quite all fit in here, but this is Deer Road down here. So this is where the zoning line would change, right? This will show existing zoning. And I'll note, just to be absolutely transparent, this property right here, you folks actually rezoned it, and the GIS has not been updated yet. You may recall that was actually rezoned to office residential to allow multifamily dwellings to occur out there. And it's something that, honestly, it shows up on the GIS sometimes and other times it doesn't. It depends on how it refreshes there. I thought this was going to show me the, I have to zoom in to show you where the actual buildings and driveways are out there. So, there's not you can see some of the lots are vacant. These are group homes out here, Murphy homes. These are single-family homes in this section here. These lots, one of these lots here that on my cursor is going to provide access to the converter station. Multifamily back here, the karate studio over here, large vacant lot. Some of these lots are somewhat challenging too. There's some wetlands and grades on some of these lots here. So I'm not sure how desirable it'll be to develop them. This is Levante's that Councilor Scott was referencing here that would likely become conforming as a result of this. I think people were talking about, maybe it's Councilor Scott too, right after Larrabee Road, there are some, established single-family homes right there. That's fine. The life really doesn't change for them. The setbacks aren't going to be really any worse. And they probably will remain single-family for a long time. But to Councilor LaChapelle's point, 10 years down the road, maybe Main Street is something different out there, or it provides opportunities for something different.
I just know that if I owned a piece of land and I was going to build a house on it and now I can't, I would not be a happy camper.
Right. We haven't seen many single-family homes out there. One quick story that I was working with a woman, I think it was one of this parcel wanted to put a daycare center out there. She's trying to get funding for it, told her it worked, and she absolutely freaked out when she got the notice because she thought, oh my God, I just bought this property, I'm trying to get financing, I'm going to do a daycare. Can I still do it? Yes, you can. She was very much relieved, but to your point, that concern is real.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Harriman.
Thank you. So all of these property owners were notified of this change,
Correct.
right? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, have we been to public comment for this item?
We have not, no. For this item? Oh, yes, we have, sorry. Thank you.
Okay, all right, well, thank you, everyone over there, thank you. By consensus there. Further questions or comments from the council? Anything further, Director Hediger?
Not this time.
Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Counselor from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
Ward 2?
No.
Motion passed by a vote of 6 to 1.
Agenda, excuse me, agenda item number 7.
Item number 7, to approve the request to rezone 55 Old Lisbon Road to office residential and initiate the rezoning process. Requested action, to approve the request to rezone 55 Old Lisbon Road to office residential and initiate the rezoning process.
Move for passage.
Second.
Councilor Clement, followed by Councilor Harriman. Do you want to kick us off?
Yes, absolutely. Good evening, Council and Mr. Mayor. We're here before you.
Do you mind introducing
Misty
yourself?
Parker,
Yeah,
Assistant
thank you.
Director, Economic Community Development. I'm here with Director of Planning and Code Enforcement, David Hediger, to discuss 55 Old Lisbon Road. This is a 70-acre parcel that has been tax acquired by the city. This is a property that at this time is now clear and free to be sold. It's been of interest for the city to see a higher and better use there and redeveloped. As part of the goals that the council has with development of vacant parcels, as well as housing, increasing housing opportunities, we see that staff is recommending that we put this property out for sale to attract proposals for housing development specifically. As part of that, in preparation of marketing this property for those specific uses of housing, we evaluated the current zoning that is there. That property specifically is carved into 3 different zoning districts. So we have low density residential, we have office residential, and we have urban enterprise, which is more of a light industrial zoning district. In speaking with the brokers and what we can be doing to market the property and put it in the best position possible to receive proposals for housing development, it was recommended to just have consistent zoning across the board so that anybody looking to make a proposal on the property would fully understand what is allowed. And so therefore, we looked at of the 3 districts, what would be the most flexible in regards to housing. We are recommending office residential at this time because it allows single-family housing as well as multifamily housing units. And so that zoning district would position it for proposals for either type of development. And according to our brokers, those are 2, when we are looking at attracting market rate development, those are the 2 areas that they are seeing the most interest for development. So that would allow proposals for either or both. Oh, I can take questions.
Are you ready to take questions?
Yes, so just before we get into questions, just want to say the request that's here before you tonight is to initiate the rezoning process. So this is under Article 8, Section 5 of the Land Use Code. Council can make that initiation. That would then send it to Planning Board for recommendation and then back to you for public hearing.
Thank you, Director. Councilor Pease.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you. I agree with rezoning it all one, only because there's some wetlands up in that area, correct?
I believe it's still in the lower section.
Not in that section, so.
It doesn't show up well. No doubt there are wetlands on that piece of property. What I just turned on is what shows up from a national wetlands inventory, so that's just a best guess, but, and it's certainly wet down towards the bottom. That's not the property in question. That's behind Phillips Element down at the bottom. But my guess is some of those wetlands extend onto the property we're talking about.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Clement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To Councilor Pease' question, there is a small section, I believe, in that urban enterprise zone in back of Phillips Element, but we had looked at that possibility of that perhaps being land for a fire station in the future, and wetlands were a concern in that bottom thing.
However, the rest of this whole parcel is in my ward, and I wholly concur with rezoning it and getting something done with the property out there. I think it's a valuable piece of property, and set it up so that somebody can move in and do something with it. Thank you.
Councilor McCarthy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What kind of access is there to this parcel?
So the ac-
Aside from Old Webster Road? Or Old Lisbon Road, whatever it is.
So I believe that is the only access to the property is off of Old Lisbon Road. We did look at the section that was zoned urban enterprise, and if we could obtain access from an adjacent parcel and, market that for industrial property, however, trying to, identify a willing property owner to give access as well as the cost of putting in a road, we deemed it there's not viable at this time.
Yeah, because my only concern would be the traffic that would be on that road. I mean, I think it's great, I think it needs to be developed, but it's a long and winding road, and if you add a significant housing project out there, that road is gonna, people on it are gonna suffer from it. Thank you.
Councilor Pease?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now, I know it's just probably premature, but the residential areas, housing in that, on that Old Lisbon Road, have they been notified at all about this?
Not at this time. They will be notified as part of the zoning process going forward.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Public comment for this agenda item? Back to the council. Anything further to add, Assistant Director or Director?
Other than we'll probably be back, depending on the planning board's schedule, probably in May with their recommendation.
Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Counsel from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
Ward 2?
Yes.
Motion passed with a vote of 7-0.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 8.
Item number 8, to approve the order authorizing a supplemental appropriation from the Federal Forfeiture Fund for an equipment purchase and associated costs for the new police station in the amount of $474,656.92. Requested action to approve the order authorizing a supplemental appropriation from the Federal Forfeiture Fund for an equipment purchase and associated costs for the new police station in the amount of $474,656.92.
May I have
So
a
moved.
motion, please? Councilor Pease, followed by Councilor Clement. Anything you'd like to say, Chief St. Pierre?
Sure. Good afternoon, good evening, councilors and mayor. As you can be well aware, we're working on mill number 7, which is going to be the location of our new police department, hopefully come January. As such, we've been doing a lot of planning for this, and we've been dealing with Johnson Controls and getting quotes for access control and cameras. Access control are the door locks for us to get in certain doors. And obviously the cameras and the audio is the other component to it. It's rather expensive, and they've put a lot of work into this, and we've actually ferreted it down as much as we possibly can. We just recently received a waiver of competition, which was approved by the Finance Committee on Monday, the 27th of March. They're going to use Sourcewell in order to do this, so there's no competition issues. We can receive a competitive price due to the federal selection process managed by Sourcewell. So we're seeking order of authorizing supplemental appropriation for the amount of $474,656.92 out of drug forfeiture money. So it should not be anything that's the taxpayers will have to absorb.
Thank you, Chief St. Pierre. Questions or comments from the council? Councilor Scott?
Just a comment that I think it's very smart to be looking at this for lead time on parts. I know, being on the facilities committee for the school department and looking at some of the HVAC work and the work that has to be done on top of the high school, there's a long lead time for getting some of the parts. So we've got to be thinking ahead in order to be in there for January. So I'm all for this.
Councilor Harriman?
Thank you. Just kind of a general question, and it might be for the finance director or city administrator. Are the drug forfeiture funds limited as to what we can spend them on? Or do they, yeah, I guess that's.
Actually, I would defer to the police chief and the deputy city administrator.
Okay.
Yeah, so in short, answer is yes. Anything that we're putting into a building that we own, we can build in, we can use that federal money. So it has to be something that can go with us. Obviously, we're leasing this and leasing it with the intent of owning it someday. So it has to be something that can be removed, which in these cases, obviously, if we place up cameras, we can remove those cameras and take them with us should we decide to leave. And the same goes with the access controls, which is merely a mechanism on each door that can be removed.
Okay. But, they can only be, these funds can only be used for the police department, I guess, is.
Do you want to answer
also?
Yes, that's only can be used for that, and we can't replace, if we had already budgeted for, certain items, we can't replace that. So there's a list of things that the federal law allows us to use, and these were our allowable uses. But this is good, so we don't have to bond this, we don't have to put it in our lease payment. And the good thing about this is we're getting a price that Tom Platts could not get. That's why we've come forward with this request.
Yeah. Thank you. I was just curious.
Public comment for this agenda item? Back to the council. Anything further? I guess not. We're good. In that case, thank you very much, Chief St. Pierre. In that case, Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Counselor from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
Ward 2?
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Agenda item number 9.
Number 9, order authorizing applying for, accepting, and appropriating a grant from the John T. Gorman Foundation for the purpose of funding rehabilitation grants for child care centers. Requested action to approve the order authorizing applying for, accepting, and appropriating a grant from the John T. Gorman Foundation for the purpose of funding rehabilitation grants for child care centers.
So moved.
Councilor Pease, followed by Councilor Jelinas. Assistant Director Parker, do you want to kick us off?
Yes, thank you so much. I'm here before you tonight, actually very timely with your recognition of the importance of childcare in the community earlier this evening. We work closely with the John T. Gorman Foundation on a number of initiatives in the city, and they're very interested in supporting the work of the city around supporting our youth and families. They have invited us to apply for a small grant of $50,000 to support child care centers, specifically rehabbing existing buildings in order to open new facilities. Over the past year, we've seen an increase in interest in opening new child care facilities, and especially those that are looking to go in existing buildings, the challenges that come with that. It's a very lean business, and so added expenses, especially what we found with mixed-use buildings, that they experience in trying to add life safety features and any other features that are required to meet state licensing can add a number of costs. And so we've been working with a few folks regarding trying to access CDBG funds. Some of those requests have been sort of outside the CDBG area, so we haven't been able to support them. Providing some small grants to assist in that rehab is an opportunity for the city to help further this along and show the support for the city has for increasing the number of these providers.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the council? Councilor Jelinas?
I would just say thank you. I just want to thank you for that description. I'm not in the industry of childcare, but I am in early childhood development, and I'm hearing almost on a daily basis the need for childcare. And I think that this is such a big need in our community, and I think it really positions Lewiston well to attract more workforce if we can get this in place. So, thank you again.
When would we, assuming the council passed this agenda item, when would we apply? When would we get the funding? And then would we then, create a system to award funding to businesses in Lewiston. How does all that, what does that look like?
Yep, absolutely. So we would apply immediately. We have until, I believe, the 21st of this month to make our application. We would, if awarded the funds, we would probably receive notice within about a month since we've been invited to apply. And we would turn that around pretty quickly with making a notice of funding availability. So I think it's fair to say by the end of the spring, early summer, that we would be advertising this opportunity. It is a small pot of money, but I think it's an opportunity to get some funds out there and disperse quickly to help move some projects along.
Thank you. Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. How do you perceive the funding being awarded? Are you looking at, 2,000, 5,000, 30,000? I mean, how are you, what kind of criteria is on this money to disperse it?
Yeah, so we have to, further define our budget for this, but we're looking at approximately $10,000 to fund 5. So it's not a lot of facilities, but we want to make sure that there's a good amount of funding that's able to go to them. Looking at some of the budgets that for rehabbing, I mean, they can be quite a bit more than that, so every little bit helps.
Awesome, thank you.
Councilor Scott.
Thank you. I would like to concur with what Councilor Jelinas says. Thank you very much for going for this. This is a much-needed service in our community. I hear it all the time as well. I hear it from my own children, from my grandchildren, that there is just not enough daycare out there, Mom. So I'm really glad to see this, and I hope that we can really support 5 new daycares and help them out coming here.
Councilor Pease.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now, would these funds only pertain to people starting daycares or existing ones as well?
At this time, we're looking to support new childcare facilities that are doing rehab projects.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, please remind me, have we, I don't think we've been to public comment?
Correct, we have not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Public comment for this agenda item.
Just to give kind of an idea of rehabbing, because we're doing a project up in Brunswick right now for our second location. We're lucky that building has already been used for childcare for 4 of the classrooms. I didn't have to add in bathrooms. I didn't have to do any of that. My construction costs right now with taking down walls, demo, replacing flooring, adding half walls, moving some electrical stuff, I'm up to $100,000 for basic construction work. The building is an 11,000 square foot building. But just to give you an idea, in Lewiston, when I put the sprinkler in my building, that was $23,000 on its own. So this would definitely be of help for people doing, and my locations are big, so my projects are going to be a little bit more money, but definitely people are looking for 20 kid centers, 30 kid centers. $10,000 can go a long way.
Back to the council. Anything further, Assistant Director Parker? Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Counselor from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
And Ward 2?
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
We are now up to reports and updates from the council. Councilor Scott.
Well, I'm going to report on the school committee meeting from last night. So first off, I'd like to speak about the robotics team. And all I can say is, wow. So the robotics team for Lewiston High School only started, it's only in its 2nd year of being a team. Last year, they won all sorts of competitions, and this year they're doing twice as good. Their team has grown twice as big, and they are about this close, where they did not anticipate, of going to nationals in Texas right now. That's how well they're doing. They're doing so well that they have been added on with other teams in their last competition who were impressed by their work. The other teams in their competition are supported by Microsoft's, MIT, Google, big corporations and companies, big tech corporations and companies. And our team is supported by folks like the Chickadee Restaurant and Little Places Here, and these kids are doing an absolutely phenomenal job. They came to the school committee last night asking for some support. They have raised a significant amount of money to take them to their next competition, but the school committee did support them for their continuing competition, because I think this is something that we can really put out there as a good public relations thing. This is an amazing thing that these kids are doing. So I just wanted to start with that. We did have a very long...
I just have a quick
Yep.
question about that. So do they now have all the money that they need to head to nationals, or?
They have the money they need, but they're still raising money. So as much as they can, the school committee supported them, but we also put in there that the money that they might be able to raise, we can take back if they don't need it necessarily, if that makes sense. So we supported them for a significant amount of money to move forward, like we did the mock trial team. But we're also still asking them to continue raising money as much as they can, and they are still raising money. I have a sheet that I brought with me, a copy of one of their support sheets that they're sending out to businesses. They're still talking to many businesses. But this being said, this all happened in the last 2 weeks. So they literally had to raise this money, not knowing that they were gonna be this good in the competition in like 5 days. They raised close to $5,000, and they're still going out there. So I just wanted to put that out there to let everybody know what's going on and make sure that we're all supporting the team.
Absolutely. And if individuals or businesses want to contribute, what's the easiest, best way to do that?
I don't have the email address on that. It was for the LRTC. Rob Callahan, the director of the LRTC program, has that information, and you can easily email him, and he will be able to take, because the money is going through a fund balance through the Lewiston Regional Tech Center, because that's where they're working through with that group.
Gotcha. Thank
Okay.
you so much. Please continue.
And so the budget conversation. So the school committee did vote on their budget last evening. It was a long conversation. There is, so a new unexpected thing that had come up. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make all the meetings when I was sick, so I apologize for that. But we did catch up last night, and one of the new things that is happening on a state level is an anticipated, for special support schools for a tuition change from the state of Maine. And this tuition change is not coming in as a piece of legislation, it's actually coming in as an emergency through the state and through the Department of Education. And it could anticipate possibly an additional $800,000 on the school budget on top of the already budget that we're talking about to cover the cost of tuition for children that are in special purpose schools outside of our district. But they are Lewiston residents and they are Lewiston students, so Lewiston School Department pays for that. It is a significant cost. I did ask the superintendent to continue to speak with our legislative delegation and to have the conversation. I have serious concerns about the state mandating something without giving some support in finances on wanting to change the way the system is, especially on an emergency level and on a legislative level. That being said, we don't know for sure if it's going to happen just yet or when it could happen, but it could literally go into effect tomorrow if the decision is made that they're going to do that. So we had to anticipate that cost into the budget. The conversation last night was around making sure that we have the money also for the tuition moving forward for the special needs and those that are out of district. Because a lot of that there was a conversation about taking some of that funding out, and there was a major concern about when you remove that funding, and I know Councilor Jelina spoke about this when we had our joint meeting, when you remove that funding, there's a chance that you could lose that funding and we won't have it available. And the reality is that we have a significant number of students on a waiting list to go to a special purpose school. There was also conversation about restoring one nurse to reassign district funds, ESSER funds that are going to be grandfathering next year to add 2 targeted SEL workers into our elementary schools. And this brought the bottom line mill rate increase to $1.70. I will say that I spoke out emphatically about finding a way that we can change that number because I had concerns about $1.70 being added to the mill rate. I spoke out about the possibility of using some of our fund balance for that anticipated $800,000 cost And if that were used that way, and we use that, the fund balance that we have on top of the 5 million fund balance we're already using, the 800,000 would have brought the mill rate down to $1.34. But that was not something that the full school committee supported. They felt that, and it would have also allowed for the targeted SEL workers to remain. It would have allowed for the nurse to remain. It would have allowed for the $50,000 restored back to the store next door and the amazing work that they do. But the school committee felt very strongly about the need for supporting our schools at a higher level, and it ended up being a 5-3 vote in support of the $1.70. The superintendent will be presenting, I believe it's Tuesday, Heather, here? Is it April 11th?
That's correct,
Yeah.
yes.
We'll be presenting this to the city council on Tuesday so that we can hear his proposal, and then we will move forward from there. And that's, Councilor Harriman and the mayor were at the meeting last night. I would definitely encourage you to take a look at the meeting. It's on YouTube. It can be watched. I checked this afternoon before I came here tonight to make sure it was there. It's available. And I would encourage you to watch it and see the conversation and everything that transpired. And we'll move forward from there.
Mr. Mayor, the school superintendent has shared his memo that I will circulate tomorrow to the whole council
Thank
as
you.
well.
Is that the one we received last night with the?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right.
Thank you very much. I think there were not enough copies for everyone in the audience, if I can remember right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilor Scott. Yeah, thank you very much. Councilor Clement?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Municipal Policy Committee, or the Legislative Policy Committee of Maine Municipal Association met last on March 23rd. We took up, I don't know, seemed like hundreds of various pieces of legislation. One significant piece I know that the city of Lewiston was interested in, LD 1153 is an act to allow municipalities to tax personal solar energy equipment under 5 megawatts. We supported this unanimously with a caveat to exclude personal rooftop solar. So if you had a rooftop solar, we wouldn't be taxing it. But if you're putting in a 4.9999 megawatt solar field somewhere, yeah, we're going to be able to tax that if the legislature approves. Unless you think it's all fun and games up there, a couple of things that were heard and they generated significant argument. One was LD 1025, an act to improve Maine's economy by changing the hours of operation for oversized loads, an emergency act. This would allow oversized loads to travel the highways of our state after dark. And that was opposed quite vehemently. But the interesting title, to improve Maine's economy by changing hours of operation, and it's an emergency act. And finally, the one that drew so much attention in the afternoon was an act to assess a slip fee on mega yachts registered in overseas tax havens. Now, a mega yacht, I'm not sure if anybody on the council has one, it's 125 feet or larger, okay? And it has to be registered in a foreign tax haven. They would assess a slip fee of $1 per foot, the first 100 feet being exempted. And a lady from somewhere down on the coast, I'm not sure what her title was, select person, harbor master or something, in a semi-expletive laden speech, she made it very clear that she wasn't going to muck around out there and measure the length of yachts and assess any $1 fee per foot. And we decided that maybe we should hire her to go and lobby the legislature for that particular item. But it is an interesting existence, to say the least. But they have great brownies at noontime. Thank you.
Yes, you don't get the brownies if you attend via Zoom.
Well, you have to ask for them. I understand they will email them to you.
I appreciate that, Councilor Clement. Yes, it was much as Councilor Clement described.
I just wanted to add one more thing, if I might, Councilor Jelinas. I did find the paperwork for the address and the information on the robotics team, and I just want to put this out there publicly, that you can contact Kathy County at kcounty@lewistonpublicschools.org or Alan Graves, A.Graves at lewistonpublicschools.org. They are the team captains and advisors for the team, and that it is a tax-deductible donation that can be made to LRTC Robotics Team 8023 and mailed to LRTC Robotics Team 8023 at the Lewiston Regional Tech Center at the Lewiston High School, so that they can receive that. And I do want to also add, and I apologize again, that, you know, Omar's name was brought up this evening by Lewiston Youth Council, and the team has named their robot after Omar, and they said Omar was their angel watching over him because he was on that first team last year that made a significant amount of wins. So I just wanted to put that out there also. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Jelinas.
Thank you. I just wanted to, mention that Lewiston Area Public Health Committee, we are recognizing the National Public Health Week, and the national theme for 2023 is centering and celebrating cultures of health. So my vice chair, Bates College professor Bill Wallace, had this great idea of, calling up some local people and, making posts each week about, public health. And so Monday, our own DEI director, Melissa Hugh, was featured, and there was a post about just, community and the impact that we all have on our public health in the community. Our local Safe Voices also featured in speaking about violence prevention. And so this is going to continue on every day this week, again, in recognition of National Public Health Week. So I just wanted to make people aware of that. We have a great committee, a lot of great help from Dottie Perry-William, who's doing some work behind the scenes to make this all happen. So it's a lot of work at the staff level as well. But just wanted to make people aware of all that.
Thank you, Councillor. Further reports and updates? We are now up to... Oh, okay. We are now up to new business. Do we have any? Madam Clerk, I believe at this time we are ready to adjourn. And just for the viewing public, I do want to clarify that we, in the spare time between the workshop and the council meeting, we have already conducted our executive session. And so now we will simply adjourn. Madam Councillor LaChapelle, second by Councillor Pease. Yes, it is getting quite late. Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Counselor from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
And Ward 2?
Yes.
Motion passes by a vote of 7-0.
Good night, Lewiston. Thank you.
My bill was for yesterday.